So I'm having a little bit of trouble getting myself in the mood tonight. I don't really like horror, or at least I've said to myself for my whole life I don't like horror. I mean, it's like I'm the kid who couldn't watch the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the little animatronics, through the whole thing because I couldn't make it through when the Abominable Snowman showed up, right? And I truly don't think I saw the full movie of Wizard of Oz for years and years and years and years because as soon as the monkeys showed up and started screeching and carrying off the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, and it was just too much. And then there was the time when probably the only haunted house I've ever been to maybe was 10, and it was in the mall, appropriately, right, in the mall in Louisville. And there was a concluding scene with a guillotine and a guy wandering around with his head allegedly chopped off, and apparently the head was, according to the local newspaper, the head was rolling around in the scene. I never saw it because I was trying desperately to get out through the witch who was holding the curtain, and I was banging into her instead of running out, my 10-year-old self running out of there. And so as although I've seen things like Poltergeist, I've certainly never seen Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, or I maybe saw The Shining, but I think I don't really remember it. I do remember reading the book and not going to sleep that night or many nights later. And I'm not even sure why, because I don't remember the story at all. So, so that I have spent the last several weeks, as you all know very well now, binge watching Stranger Things is a bit of a puzzle for me because I really dislike horror. I have done, those of you who are connoisseurs on unauthorized know that I did do a video with Dr. Jones on his book Monsters from the Id, and we talked about his theory about what horror is. I'm like, okay, so I can see the tensions in things like Aliens that he describes. It has to do with motherhood and abortion and worries about sexuality from those periods. And I do have to confess, all right, yes, I have sat in the theater binge watching Aliens 1, 2, and 3 with my then boyfriend, now my husband. We were so jangled with adrenaline when we got out, we could barely walk, right? So I guess that was pleasurable in this interesting way. But my most recent, let's see, I want to get the full genealogy of the horror out here so that we really set the stage properly. Because I think horror has to do with, I mean, it certainly has to do with the past and things that's being revealed and things that have been hidden and that we haven't been able to look at and consider, right? Um, that I have two or three things that thinking about horror, right? Back in 2018, I was being reviewed for promotion by my department and they turned me down. They've done it again since then, but the world's taken on a whole never different complexion since then. So like, whatever, right? But at that point in 2018, I was like, this makes no sense, right? I experienced it, true, absolute horror for the first time, and I understood what it meant. It meant the world that you thought you knew was suddenly exposed to be completely false. And that sensation of real horror stuck with me for years. I mean, like I said, it was a bit overridden by 2020, but it stuck with me for years, so much so that I couldn't watch anything. I couldn't watch comedy. I couldn't watch cartoons. I certainly couldn't watch drama because I realized that in every story, there's a moment when things turn and the thing that you thought was true suddenly isn't. And then the world turned crazy, right? And I was thinking about how I binge watching to a certain extent Buffy the Vampire Slayer. See, maybe I've watched more horror than I realized, and I don't think I like it. Maybe I do like it. Watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the week when the world shut down with COVID. And I was watching with some of my family, and there was this sort of surreal feeling of, well, the world was literally locking down, right? You could feel the gates clanging shut and the flights being canceled and the parks being emptied. And here we were watching, I don't even remember which season it is of Buffy. The monster takes over the school and eats the students, right? And you're like, this is so silly. It was when Buffy was made, it was like, can we make the biggest possible monster we can that takes over the whole school? And in the context of our entire world going nuts, it seemed a pretty tiny monster, right? It ate a few students, and they speared it with something. I don't know, maybe it's a dragon. I'm not sure. And in that moment, I mean, the world has changed. The world that we are watching in Stranger Things, which is interesting, gone through this transition from before 2020 to after 2020. We've been through some kind of rupture, some kind of true horror, right? That the world we thought we were in has now been revealed to be controlled by various forces that we can't define, that we can't isolate, that are certainly affecting all of us, and they feel untouchable and monstrous, and yet very, very real. And yet, I don't know. I mean, it's like the world feels better now. Can we defeat these monsters? Can we get there? I'm not really sure, but it's been interesting. But the most interesting thing for me about watching Stranger Things the last few weeks is that I was able to at all. That I enjoyed it, that I sat down and felt like going through this game of Dungeons and Dragons with the kids who've subsequently grown up had the effect that I think people say horror is supposed to, that you feel like there's some catharsis, some release, something when the world turned on you, and then you were able to deal with it. So this has all made me very, very thoughtful for tonight's Halloween episode on the monsters of Stranger Things, because we want to explore exactly what they are, why they're I mean, satisfying as monsters, which I think it's fair to say they absolutely are. These are excellent monsters. But what makes them excellent, and why have they been so captivating, and what are we? And I don't know whether we're going to go predicting on you right now, but what are we hoping that season 5 is actually going to bring to us? What are we hoping that it's going to be able to show us? Welcome to the Mosaic Arc. Yes, you're there. Okay. Don't do that behind the scenes with me. My gosh. Trying to frighten me, asking me whether you're on air yet. You weren't on air yet because we were doing the credits, for goodness sake.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't, because I had to nip out for like 30 seconds and come back in.
We're not supposed to tell them all this behind. Okay, so I've been studying these monsters, right? So I've got the monster book, right? And oh well, of course I do. Of course I even have look.
No, I have been told
that script.
Oh my gosh. I think you may have a problem.
We will do Stranger Things Anonymous next week, except for not Anonymous.
Yeah, just a little bit of one. I have been told that it's not binge watching unless you watch it all in one night. So my binge watching it 2 episodes at a time, through last night didn't count, but it sure felt like it did. It's very intense. They say I've never. It's funny. I've never been a huge fan of 1980s type horror
Mm.
because I'm a big old coward, and it's
And
just
yet we're
really
both watching
scary.
this. We're both saying, "Look, I
But
never
yeah,
watch horror, but I'm going to watch this, like
there
bazillion
was much better.
episode, four
Well,
season extravaganza of monsters more than
it's
once."
yeah, it was much. It was done much better than its original source material, in my opinion. Now that might just be because they had longer to develop the characters. To be fair, this is a series versus a movie versus the movies that were the source inspirations.
Mm.
Um, but I just think it's much better. But
Well, so
I
we're
could
going
be
to talk
biased for
about
reasons
why
we already
it's
talked about.
yeah, no, we want to talk about why it's worth even 3 streams so far, and we're still going, right? It's like
Yes.
what is it they've
Well,
actually
how can we skip Halloween night? Come on, we
No,
couldn't
we
do
have to
that.
talk about monsters now. Um,
Yeah.
but among other things that I've been learning watching the behind the scenes a making of, because like coming in this late, right? It's like it's great. You have footnotes galore on YouTube to learn about stuff. And I was looking at one where Vecna is talking about the actor who plays Vecna. Yes, it's an actor. I'm sorry, it's not a real monster. Um, talking about what
Nope, not. He's really good at it.
sorry, spoiler alert, we're late. You guys got to catch up. That they're showing all the makeup that they have to do to get him into it and stuff. And one wonderful detail is like his hand is so, like creepy and long fingered and stuff. And that's because it's
Mhm.
like they make beautiful monsters because they make them all like in real, right? There's guys in suits
Yeah.
being these monsters, and to say these are so much better than all of the CGI monsters.
It really is. Even CGI itself has gotten worse over time, not better. Other people have mentioned this, not just me, but then you're comparing even compared to good CGI, which was used minimally 15 years ago. It's so much better. It's just there's so much craftsmanship going into this costume making.
To
It's a pleasure to
Stranger Things,
watch.
the
Mhm.
actual stuff, right? And that they, I mean, other wonderful details like the spores that they have in the upside down and
Yeah.
such, that they're actually like dandelions, that they're
To me,
blowing,
it looked
that they
to me
said
it
they
looked
were
like Fallout.
they they said they were dandelions. They said that that's
Yeah,
what
I can believe it.
the brothers. I watched the brothers talking about it, and they so they actually have like real stuff floating around and being
Oh,
blown
they were
on
using
set.
real dandelions, you mean?
They were using real dandelions. Yeah,
Oh, that's
because they
kinda cool.
float nicely. They float correctly and such. And to say,
Mhm.
that to make, you know, true horror, you have to be using reality. That's a good
Well,
catchphrase.
sure. Sure, it's like the nightmares themselves, right? They're so much like reality. That's why they're so scary when we have them ourselves and when the characters on the screen have them, when Vecna's, invading their mind and pulling up their memories and using them against them.
Right.
The reason it's so terrifying is because it's so real. So I really appreciate that they're using actual objects and not just computer generated images.
Right.
It makes a big difference.
It makes and actual actors.
Mhm.
It's funny with Vecna. It's like if once they get it's said, and this is not news for anybody who likes behind the scenes stuff, right? But it's like it took 8 hours to get him in that suit. So a filming day for the Vecna scenes is actor guy whose name we've forgotten,
Monstrous.
right?
Yeah.
Is see him being made up for 8 hours, and then however long they shoot, and then him being like it looked like a couple hours to get it off of him. So
Oh,
it's
man,
yeah,
that's a
it's
long day.
these are and and we've been talking about how like as craftsmanship, the kind of work that they're clearly putting into the editing and the scenes, that if you create a real set, which I've learned, like all of this stuff is real sets. It's great. Even the tunnels are real. Everything's real.
Mhm.
It's not. I mean, we did Kiltz and I did an episode a long time ago on green screens, And it
Mm,
was interesting looking up all of those shows, like the Alice in Wonderland that was all green screens, and the dragons in Game of Thrones that were, we have
yeah.
one with Daenerys, and she's holding some blob, right? And they'd green screen it on as a dragon, and that none of this stuff is. I mean, they might process it a bit, I think, maybe, right? But it's they've committed themselves because they were trying to get the aesthetic of the 80s, which was all models and costumes and real sets and such. And it shows. It shows,
They
you can
so
actually
much
feel it.
better than when you look at a movie like The Thing. I think somebody just I think Dark Harold might have reviewed it.
Mm.
I watched it recently, the 1982 version, and then we watched the original 1950 something, which was awful. It was just terrible. What's interesting about the 1982 version is that and it was very much like Alien, right? It was the terrible monsters that were taking over. It was like a skinwalker would take over people's bodies, and then it would just break out, and there would be this monster that would just
Mm.
devour everybody. But the effects looked bad. They looked really bad. The Alien was much better, and maybe they had a bigger budget. I don't know, but the acting was superb. The acting was still superb in it, so that it kept the tension really nicely. But and maybe that's because the actors were acting against real things in the room with them instead of against a green screen. Just an idea.
Actually, it's accurate because one of the things I watched now, I don't remember who was, maybe Millie Brown was saying, or maybe it was, I can't remember which one it was, saying that there was a real thing there. Maybe it was guy who plays Dustin talking about having an actual object to
Mm,
look at, so that they have. I mean, so we
yeah.
we talked 2 weeks ago about when Joyce is talking to the lights, right, and how amazing that scene is with Winona Ryder making you believe that she's talking to her son through the lights.
Oh, yeah,
But at
that
least
was
she has a ball of
beautiful.
lights,
Yeah.
right? With with the green screens, they're just screaming at nothing. That they're
Yeah.
always they're always simply, looking at, and you can see it in their gaze, right? That there's nothing to see, so they don't look at anything. And then the computer guys put stuff in, allegedly, in their line of sight, but human beings are really, really good at telling what we're looking at. That's like our
Yeah.
major fear technique is to be watching what other people are looking at. Because everything depends on that, right? It's like prairie dogs jump out of their little hut, and they're looking around and looking around. It's like people, all of it's in our eyes. And so if there was some stuff recently too on how the AI is getting the gaze wrong on everything. So
Mm,
if you can tell that people actually aren't looking in the right place to be looking at the thing that they're screaming about, we don't
mhm.
believe it, because we rely on knowing where we're looking to run away from the right monsters. So
Right. I
it's
don't even know
it's
how you do that as a director. You want your actors to react to monster, and you have a specific monster in mind, and then you tell the actors, "Okay, it's gonna be on the green screen. You can't see it, but I want you to react to it." What are they looking at in their own head? Are they even gonna get the right reaction? I
well,
don't know. I'm not in
so
film.
it's here we have our opening monster is the classic Demogorgon. And I
Mm,
think so that was an actor in a suit.
mhm,
And so in this scene when Eleven is banishing him in the schoolroom, it's an actor in a suit that she's
mhm.
looking at.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just think we're harder to fool than we think. If maybe this is a sort of reassuring thing to recognize off all, the fears of the AI and the CGI and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. We can all tell that these are actual physical, costume creatures. Even if once you hold them still and they stop
I
moving, you start focusing on them and go, oh, wait a minute, okay,
I mean,
that's a bit
I gotta
that's
say
a bit
bravo
fake.
again.
if
Yeah,
if I'm not
they're
looking through my eyes, at the thing that I'm scared to, it's going to be scary for me. It's a little faker
yeah.
than I think it is. But yeah,
I mean, they looked fantastic. I mean, all of the monsters looked fantastic for what they were. They did look truly terrifying and slimy and gross, and they looked like real things. Does that make sense? Because they're not real.
they
They're
no they
monsters, but
well, the thing is, they're
they looked
real human
real.
beings in a costume movie. I mean, the guy, I've watched some talking about the guy who played the Demogorgon, right? And like the Demogorgon's really tall, and so they put his feet
Hmm.
on stilts. They're little,
Hmm.
like,
Like painter stilts. Yeah.
yeah, half stilts that the character, the object has, and it's kind of a puppet because he's working the arms, but his arms aren't in the costume.
Mm.
So that's interesting. But it's the puppetry is interesting because there you can um I had not thought to go here, but there's some big puppets that this company does, that they did street shows in places like Antwerp, and I know Antwerp because my brother showed me some scenes of these puppets, and they're like reverse marionettes. They've got people on the ground working them in
Hmm.
teams, and you can see the people working the marionettes and still believe that these puppets are moving
Isn't that
of
funny?
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's true.
it's very interesting that we'll allow puppetry over a CGI generated monster.
Every time. So
Yeah.
we just went to the theaters, and they released just for like a night or two, Paranorman, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mm.
Leica Studios, it's stop motion animation,
Mm-hmm.
and they do such a beautiful job. They really do. I mean, the expressions they can put on these, what are essentially puppets, right, are amazing. They're very human and goofy at the same time because they're still puppets, but it's incredible when somebody puts work into real physical objects, the difference you can tell. It's just much richer.
Yeah. Well, with Paranorman too, I think they had to make different heads for every expression. So
Yes, it's incredible kind of
it's
work.
but
For their
but
newest
but isn't it
for their new
lovely, this feeling of like the delight in the craftsmanship
Yes.
of these creatures, right? That they're
Yeah,
it's
nobody's gonna delight in ones and O's. They're gonna delight in actual somebody carving something and making something mechanical move and be lifelike.
yeah. Well, this is not where I thought we were just going to be frightened all the time. Anyway, but the actual monsters, right? So I think what we're establishing here, I think, is, that it's not that Demogorgon is cute or sweet. That we have to wait to the Demo Dogs to get to that level. But there is something sort of um satisfying about a monster that actually inhabits physical space.
Well, how else would you be afraid of it?
Um. Well,
So I watched
that's what.
Constantine years ago, and the demons that they had, the CGI demons, were so laughably bad that there was nothing scary about their hell scenes at all, not whatsoever. Not least of which that the theology was just ridiculously horrible. But they just looked so unscary because they looked flat. They looked one dimensional because you knew they weren't real.
Okay,
It's
but
like suddenly they
this
switched to
is
cartoon.
why. I mean, in so in essence, and this is actually the friction of the topic that I was thinking of. They're not real. The monsters aren't real. None of these monsters are real.
No, but they
Right?
can feel real.
The Demogorgon
That's a
is, I mean, what's okay, so footnote time, right? And you find out that the Demogorgon, oh well, the footnote time of all of these is realizing all of the monsters that they're working with, and the characters actually point this out in the show. They're all taken from Dungeons and Dragons. Like the
Mhm.
Demogorgon is a Dungeons and Dragons character. The Mind Flayer is a Dungeons and Dragon character.
Vecna.
Even Vecna
Yeah.
is a Dungeons and Dragons character.
Yes.
So
I have a D I live with a D&D, expert
ah,
who translates for me.
so you knew this. So it. I mean, there's a kind of, this is like, it's making your toys into your monsters. This is just
Yes.
it's like you're elevating, and as we have with the, apparently there was some like particular person who painted the model of the Demogorgon that they use on in this shot, the little model one, right?
Mhm.
But that the monsters in essence in this story are all out of a game.
Mhm.
So there's another layer of the, okay, so why are they actually effectively scary at all? Because we know from the beginning they're toys.
Well, if your monster toys came to life,
So this is
like if your nightmares came to life.
right, and this is what I'm sort of curious about, right? Because what's funny about horror in the long run is, for the most part, if you hold still and don't like watch through your clenched hands, right? they're much less scary than they are when you are allowing yourself to be scared by them, which is the entertainment part of it.
Yeah.
And yet I don't like it because I tend to take, I don't know, it's like the kinds of background stories for horror like Halloween or something, I'm just not interested in enjoying. I have no, or the zombie movies, or I've never watched The Walking Dead or anything like that. Okay, I actually do have a theory about this. I think it's mainly the music and the sounds.
It's the music that you don't like, or the music and the sounds that attract people to it.
I think that's what makes it either frightening or not, right? It's like asking about what
Yeah.
it's like for the actors to act. They don't have a soundtrack.
And it is, yeah, I don't get this whole zombie. I mean, World War Z maybe was scary because they moved like at lightning speed, and so that could be frightening. But yeah, normally the zombies are moving really slowly, and it's kind of funny actually.
Well,
Like Shaun of the Dead funny. That was a
we're
great
not
movie.
doing very well at making any of this frightening. This
Well,
is
no,
this
because
is
there, okay,
this is
there is,
the All Saints Day version of Halloween. It's like, oh, it's all fine.
no, I mean what's great about the Mind Flayer, like Vecna is the Mind Flayer, right? Is he's using your dreams, he's using your fears to scare you. And everybody can relate to that because everybody's had a nightmare or they have fears they hope don't come true. You know, that's easy to relate to. Zombie isn't easy to relate to. That just looks silly, you know.
Well,
Um,
I was interested. Zombies for some years. Zombies were the quintess. Like everything was with zombies. It was. There's a game on
yes,
kids play on campus. It's Aliens versus Zombies or something. Humans versus Zombies, something like that.
Aliens versus Zombies is a very old video game. So like
Well, it's an
a
it's
computer
an
game.
actual game where they like wear bandanas and carry Nerf
Oh
guns
yeah.
around and stuff on campus. Yeah, I haven't seen them.
Okay.
They haven't played it since 2020, as far as I remember. But before that, it used to be like, and they if they were in class, it would be um off base, right? You had to stop being in your character when you're in class, and then as soon as you're out of class, you could be shot or captured or something like that.
That's pretty funny.
Humans versus zombies, I think. And so no,
Yeah.
there were this meditation on how we were all becoming zombies with our phones, right? So the horror
Mhm.
there, the thing is, I think the true horror, and this is what you're pointing to with thinking about Vecna that way, is the true horror is always something that is actually real. These monsters, like when I'm watching
Yeah.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer and COVID is closing the world down, COVID's the real thing that people are afraid of, or at least the thing that people are really, well, anyway. Um, maybe they're watching too much
Yeah.
horror, right? That the monsters in the movies are fake because so they allegedly help us deal with the stuff that's actually out there and real. So so I think the Demogorgon is interesting because he's sort of a classic like dragon problem. He eats your head.
Mm. Yeah.
And uh in 4, again, you guys, spoilers are all through this because it's been out for a while.
You need to have it spoiled if you're going to enjoy season 5.
Yeah,
So
so we're catching
whatever
you
you do,
up.
remember to watch.
We're public service. That when Hopper kills the Demogorgon in the Soviet camp, right? He gets to use a Conan sword, which I thought was great.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
like, and he did it. I as a sword
It's very Dungeons and Dragons.
oh, that's cool. Okay, so you have to supply all the Dungeons and Dragons lore because I don't know any of it. But the sword, the strike that he used was actually, I just like, oh yeah, that's a nice, good broadsword. Well
Nice.
done, Hopper. Right? But the thing is, it was satisfying too because it was like, yes, he gets to actually fight this thing
Yes. Yeah, and you
physically.
can tell he really wants to fight this thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a fun scene to watch.
But rather
Yeah.
just it's all in your head stuff, right? And it's like, no, I get to
Yeah.
slice its arm off.
Yeah. Take the fight right out of him.
Well, and this is,
Take his head off so he can't get in your head.
well, that too, right? But the thing haunting me in the background of talking about Stranger Things is, well, there are two, right? One, it's well, actually several, but anyway, it's all the text I'm reading in my Eurociv class. One, it's Beowulf, right? So we
Mm,
have the
mhm.
kind of monster that's Grendel, or the monster that's Grendel's mother, or the dragon, which Beowulf has to fight, which, as I talked about in my BaseCon talk, is actually the horror is the actual kinslaying and killing that the killing that happened in the mead halls. And now my theory is like all of the sounds of the battle that you get from the monster battles is real, like what it was really like being standing outside listening to people fighting inside those meat halls. I think
Yes.
it's just
Yeah.
horrifying, and that they they put on fire by, might as well be a fire breathing dragon, right? Because the halls really were burned down and the people really were eaten and
Mm,
killed. So that there's something that, the monsters feel real because the thing that you're fighting in telling the story about what happened with those monsters is actually real.
mhm.
I don't think I mean, who gets to fight with broadswords against monsters now?
Uh,
Well,
I don't
nobody.
know.
I mean, I think this is also something. Some of the problem is we want the real. This okay. Theory number 5 that or whatever we're coming up with. We want the real thing to fight. It's very, very hard having all of this happening simply in your head all the time.
Well, right. This is what the governments of the world did to everybody for 5 years, right? It was the Mind Flayer. What a perfectly timed monster for a great series.
Don't we want the Demogorgon to fight, but instead what we get is the upside down,
What we
right?
right.
Yeah,
What we get is a lot of fear mongering and propaganda and gaslighting and
there you go.
we get Vecna. That's what we get.
Right.
What we want is a Demogorgon so we can just kill it and be done with it. But what we get instead is Vecna. You know, and I'm going to take a guess here. Is he going to pit people against each other? They were already pitted against each other at the end of season 4,
Mm.
right? So that one branch of the military invaded another. And then they just killed all the scientists and killed all the guards. It was a slaughter. They killed everybody.
Good point. Interesting. I'm not actually spending that much time thinking about what's going to come in season 5. I've been too absorbed with.
I just know they're going to kill Steve. Damn it!
Okay, I have seen
I don't want him to die, but I know
yeah,
they do.
the sort of the charts of figuring out which characters they're going to kill off, and
Yeah.
figure out who has to have the. I did watch one where the brothers are talking about all the deaths, right? The significant deaths
Hmm.
that they'd have to, and I was at that point I was still watching season 4 and I didn't know Eddie died. No,
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, talk
He had a
about
gl- he
spoiler.
he had a glorious death too. He did. He made his ancestors proud.
Fighting the bats, right? The flying
Yes,
bats. But
yes. And most metal death ever. It was awesome.
and it gave Dustin a context in which to really be courageous as well. So
Yes, because he
that
didn't
was
let him
good.
stay there alone. He
Yeah.
found a way back then. Yeah.
So this okay, one part of my wondering about the series, like when you're at so like you definitely say that Lewis and Tolkien wrote horror because they did,
Mhm.
because that hideous strength is horrifying, right? Nobody likes that book.
I haven't read it. I'm gonna have to now.
Oh, I mean, it pulls out all the stops, right? I don't think they've ever
Mm.
even tried to make a movie of it because it is actually, it's like, it's pretty like bone crunching, like blah horror. And The Lord of the Rings is obviously meant to be horror. And that
Well, parts of it certainly are. Yeah.
both, yeah, but at a different level. I mean, that hideous strength gets sort of gross horror, right?
Mm.
Well, I won't spoil it for you. Um, but I'd say one of the things that like Edmund Wilson in his review of the Fellowship, I'm not sure he got to. I think it was just the first book, the Fellowship. He's saying none of the monsters were actually scary. Ooh,
Mm.
it was titled "Ooh, those awful orcs," right? Oh no, it did actually. It got to the end because he talked about how stupid the spider was, right? So saying which monsters are frightening, which if you're trying to Tolkien is trying to capture the feeling like with I mean the upside down kind of feel of
Yes.
being overcome by fear and something you can't locate, and that Sauron just getting in their heads with the well, I guess the ring wraiths carry it, but that fear that Tolkien is trying to write is this oppressive, overwhelming. Well, and I did the episode a while ago on Sauron's mic, right? That it somehow just comes from
Hmm.
the air because it's like there in
Yeah.
the propaganda that's filling your head with be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, even if there's nothing
Yep.
there, right? But to get to that saying, both Tolkien and Lewis also experienced the real horror of being in the trenches.
Yes.
And so it's like, for whom is the horror? I'm interested. I enjoy the horror now more when I've been through it myself. It's like I know what an actual, like, you thought your world was one way and it isn't. Everybody lied to you. I mean, I had a somewhat sense of horror like that when my parents told us that my dad was leaving, and I'm like, no, this isn't real. This, like,
Yeah.
that can't be true. But how long does it take? You're living and living and living, and most things fit in your expectations, right? And then suddenly something happens, and it's like, this cannot be happening.
Hmm.
I can't accept that this is going on.
Right. It's like death itself. It's the most wrong thing ever.
Mm,
Because we weren't made to die. As we Christians know, we were not made to die. Our first parents fell, and that introduced death. And it's not permanent, but we believe Christ redeemed us, and now we can live again. We can be resurrected eventually. But in the meantime, we're still dealing with the most wrong thing ever. And it's hard to take lies the same way it's hard to take death,
mm.
because it's wrong, and you just know in your core it's wrong and it shouldn't be there, and you just want it to be right.
I hadn't thought of that.
It gave her something to think
Oh,
about.
I'm thinking. Well, no, and the thing is, the obvious. So we were just talking about Eddie dies, right? Which of the characters dies? Which of the, it's like and of course, we're so used to all these characters dying, and oh, there's the actor later, right? And so you have this kind of
Yeah.
surreal sense of, wait, did you really die? Or, no, it's actually fine. And I
I
realized,
I Yeah, it always makes me feel better to see the actors alive because they're so convincing. Their deaths are so convincing on
well, and most
screen,
people,
and
I
like,
don't think
yeah.
most people get, a heroic, dramatic death either.
No, that's gold for an actor, I would imagine.
Well, I think it's like gold for anybody. Like, do you
Yeah.
get to actually have a moment when it's significant, that you feel the full significance of what's happening, as opposed
Yeah.
to, the accidents, or
Right, you're going to die and you do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. This is why we have posthumous medals of honor
right.
and such things like that throughout the world.
But I'd say most people don't get a significant death.
True. True. I mean, well, it's significant to God, but not to anybody else.
Right.
Each death to God would be is significant. Um, but right, everybody else, as far as anybody else knows, you're dying in relative obscurity.
Well, I'm just now we've gotten depressing. Oh, just the moment,
Well,
the actual moment, which is what so we're saying the actors,
tomorrow's All Souls Day.
they're yay,
Or All
All
Saints Day,
Saints.
sorry. I always get that backwards. Yeah.
The actors are, if they're either playing to a real costume person or the green screen, but it's like you're screaming because you're afraid of something that's not actually truly scary to you because you're an actor. Um, Sorry, now I forgot what I was thinking. Their
I've had
death,
night
right? They're pretending
Yeah,
to die too, right? And
yeah.
um,
They convinced me. I've had nightmares since I've been watching this. I wanted to
mm,
get through all of them because season 5 was coming up,
mm.
and, you wanted to do these streams, and they've been lots of fun. But the nightmares aren't fun. I'm having about
Oh,
one every 2 weeks now. Duffer Brothers, good job.
well, I had a nightmare the other night, but it wasn't about Stranger Things. It was my usual
Oh, mine
nightmare when I'm
was.
I'm going to significant fencing tournaments, and it's never about the tournament or the competition or anything like that. It's about getting to the airport. And I get trapped in some kind of ridiculous, usually in a mall in some weird situation, right? It's like I
I always have
can't
those dreams too. They're
can't
anxiety dreams.
yes,
Yeah.
can't get to the airport, right? So but
Yeah.
I did okay, so in the sort of, where these the monstrousness of the upside down comes from. I mean, I think it's perfect. The upside down is this perfect realm that they've invented to describe that feeling of it just being this slightly wrongness, right? It's like this
Mm,
sideways. I think it loses a little bit in season 2 when they actually go underground, right? So then instead of it being this alternate dimension, it's just underground, right? Which was not as
right.
effective for me as in the first season when it's this uh, you know thinness of reality, and where is it? It's like the anti heaven, right? If you say it's hell, because it ruptures into our reality at times, and monsters come through, but it's not actually another place in our world, which is when they get to the tunnels in the second one, although the shadow monster is actually very effective. But the
Yeah.
upside down seemed to me to be exactly that dream place, right? It's like that place you can't get out of when you're in a nightmare.
Yeah, it exactly has that feeling. That's why it's so effective, I think. Yeah, like you pick up a phone to call and it won't work, right? And
Yeah.
you open the door to go into one room and you're in the wrong room. It's that feeling of total confusion and helplessness and being stuck.
Yeah, so Robert was asking upside down from what? And I think this is it. I mean, they give a pseudoscience explanation for it with Mr. Clark in the paper plate, and the punches through this, how can we get from one realm to the
Yeah.
other? Um, which is an interesting problem if you go from the other direction, since L is the one who opens it, and they're gates, right? And
Hmm.
the gate is, well, I didn't actually include many of the gates in my slide deck today. Um, that there is a way in which it's veil like, and therefore potentially problematically Christ like, since Christ comes from the Holy of Holies of heaven through the veil into our reality. So I think, I mean, for me, the upside down is playing this kind of, it's the hell space that should be heaven
Yeah,
space.
it's the opposite. It's the opposite of it. It's the corruption of everything. It's the corruption of creation.
Right.
Everything is decaying instead of growing, and everything it touches dies.
Right. Um, which is okay. So that's the what the upside down has. I thought season 1 was much more effective for me with the upside down, because one, they put the hazmat on, and they had the dandelion spurs. They lost some of that, I think, in season 4 when they have to go through the into Vecna's upside down. It's not quite as, it's got all the vines and stuff like that, but it doesn't have as much of the literal atmosphere of season 1's upside down.
Right, because I think the Upside Down itself was one of the main characters. That's why, and by the time you get to season 4, you have real creatures, human beings, and Vecna,
Right.
who are the main characters, and the Upside Down becomes background. It's someplace they have to go to defeat him.
Which is kind of too bad. I'm just gonna say, because it was the real horror is that feeling of where is our reality, and because, and I think the like Joyce not knowing where Will is, and that Will is next to her somehow and able to talk to her
Mm,
through the lights because he's in the upside down. The upside down becomes, I mean, becomes much more by season 4, just a place they go in and out of because they find all these gates, right? So it's anyway, it's storytelling. Uh, um,
it's like the anti-Narnia. It's not a pleasant place at
yeah,
all.
it's kind of like an anti, but it becomes a
Mm.
place where they know how to get to, right? And they can plan to go in and out of it. And I
Well, but a great risk. It's not they don't go in and out of it so flippantly. Nobody actually wants to be there. It's a horrible place.
Right. So Robert and Mel are talking about how it's the print. Mel's saying it's principalities we cannot see. more
Mm.
gates are
Hmm.
opened. So I think this is an interesting problem for exactly where the horror lives. If it becomes too familiar, if you can train yourself to in dreams to go into the horror, what does that mean? I don't know. I don't know. But I don't think
I don't
the
think you
thing
want to
is
do
I
that.
know
That's
I
called lucid dreaming. And stay away from that.
but that isn't that what Elle is able to do? Again, we didn't
That is what.
I didn't
Yes.
include those here because I was trying to just think about the monster and the monstrous and what Elle's powers are that we need
Well,
to
her power is to enter into somebody else's consciousness, and she can't affect it, but she can be in it and she can observe. Although in season 4 she did affect it a little bit. She was in there to fight Vecna on a different plane, almost like an astral plane.
yeah, we need to okay, so let's pace through these, right? Because what I the
There's a
prop
lot
well
going on.
no, but the problem is that the Duffers wrote these in order, as it were. So it's like they themselves are discovering new layers of what the horror is as they're writing
Yeah.
the series of
Mhm.
seasons. And that the first season they said the main thing that they were interested in was when the kidnapped child, which was very very terrifying because so what happened to Will, and then this sort of paranormal um setting for it, and that gives you Elle's the one that's responsible for this rupture between our reality and the upside down, and that simply that uncertainty is one of the things that's most terrifying in season 1. Like
Mm.
how do they get there, what is it, the level of mystery that they were able to play with, and that I'm overdoing this, right? But the simply the not knowing part is the place that we are usually inhabiting, right? It's like we just don't know what's beyond
Mhm.
our attention and our um what you were saying about death, right? It's like that this could is it another place? Is it just how is it another something?
That's interesting, that they were using lights the way they were with Joyce talking to them and communicating with her son through the lights.
Mm.
This is what, of course, they were complete frauds, but this is what people who conducted seances would do. They would
Mm-hmm.
do things like knocking and lights blinking on and off. And so it was like, is Will dead? He was assumed dead, right? And she's been talking to him through the lights,
Right.
and even had a fake funeral for him. She knew it was fake. She didn't accept it, and she was right. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
that's
that's
interesting.
in the 19th century. There's a lot of mysticism around electricity.
Makes
There's
sense.
yeah, there's a whole book that I was looking at for something I was writing on Lewis Carroll, or I was writing about Tolkien, but also Lewis Carroll with Alice in
Mhm.
Wonderland, and it was this novel that in which there's this kind of theology of electricity, and Christ is the electric Christ. It's
Mm,
it's very
the electric Christ.
it's
Yeah, I
pretty
think I remember mentioning that.
yeah, it's pretty funny. And so yeah, so the sort of but the thing is, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, that sense of the power in the medium and the electricity is a good one. McLuhan is pointing out that we are actually affected, so this effect of our environment is another of the things that they're drawing on. And we get to now season 2 with that shadow monster that Will
Mm.
is affected by, so that even though we've closed the first closed the gate, we've gotten Will back, and the
They
Demogorgon's
closed the gate after
gone.
season 2,
Yeah,
right?
but the gate is still there, and the shadow is now haunting the town. And that Will is the only one who can see it, and then he gets possessed by it.
Right,
And
right. Because
it's
the shadow's following Will,
right.
right?
uh
You can see it's like a shadow of his past.
Well, I so what's funny is it's like their monsters work well if they're not over we don't over metaphorize them. On the other hand, they're great metaphors for
Mhm,
what
yeah.
it is that. But what past does he have? Right. This for me is what's interesting. It's like we don't really. in a classic horror of the Stephen King version or the 80s, 70s and 80s version, you're hiding child abuse.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the possession and trauma that Will goes through, uh it seems to hint at that, but it's not there, right? Joyce isn't abusing him. It's not clear whether
No.
his father did. So if this is an abuse
His father
problem,
psychologically abused him for sure.
yeah, but not at this like real, I mean, the true Stephen King level of
Yeah.
child abuse as they get in it is,
Mhm.
it's like it's there, but it's not there. So it's almost as if, I mean, the it's like the Stranger Things monsters hint at those classic monsters, but
Mhm.
then when did this one come out? 2017, 2018?
Which one?
Two.
The f 2 came out in 20 I think it came out in 2018.
It's like artists are tapping into the thing that's coming, and they'll talk about it before it's actually manifested. It's,
Oh,
this is like COVID.
that's true. Yeah. We've seen that ourselves when we write, sometimes.
Yeah, and we're saying, "Oh my gosh, we predicted it." So I think with this one, it's like when I was saying I was watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer predicted COVID a lot as well, right? Particularly in the gentlemen who come and take people's screams and then take their hearts.
You're not gonna believe this, but I have never seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well,
I should
there's
watch it.
this
I
episode
know.
in which the monster of the week is these guys, these sort of floating voiceless. They steal people's voices, and the mystery comes out that they're killing people. They're taking people's hearts. And I'm like, well, that's pretty
Mhm.
prophetic. This was like 2004, right?
Wow.
And the thing that gets the thing that the outside world hears about the town that's been taken over by these gentlemen is that they're suffering from an epidemic.
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
was
I
covering
find
for
that
something
pretty
else.
spooky.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah,
this
same
is what
part of a
I
different
see now. This
century.
shadow monster, this thing that comes and possesses Will and takes away his takes him away, and he's gonna end up, betraying everybody. I mean, it's like this is
Yeah, which
I
is what he did when he was possessed,
right.
right?
Right. And it like and what we have, I mean, we barely talked about it. We weren't allowed to talk about it without getting canceled and silenced when it was happening.
Mhm.
I mean, this is a very satisfying monster to get to defeat now because we've been there. We've lived this one.
Have we defeated it?
Well, no, because
Ooh,
there's new
16-4
layers that
coming
the
up.
Duffer Brothers seem to keep tapping into somehow.
That's right.
Right. Well, and so I mean, the next layer of monster in season 2 was the tunnels, which I learned from the watching the behind the scenes making things. Those are real tunnels, right? They had to do, maybe not, well, actually they had like a fairly extensive tunnel system of set, but they
Mm,
made them as real things, right? So that they're
yes.
filming them having to move through
So
these
you can walk through,
actual
yeah.
spaces of like sets. And then the wonderful crayon drawing that he's doing that they figure out is a map of all the tunnels, which
Yes.
then I don't like that they're tunnels underground because that to me feels, it doesn't feel like it's as much of a veil piercing problem as the upside down in the first season, but that the tunnels are everywhere in the town, and therefore obviously it's saying something about, all of this stuff is going on, this rot and this decay that
Right,
is
and the tunnels themselves look like the vines, right? They twist and they turn and they
right.
overlap each other, and the only thing they don't do is cross water, which is an interesting thing they put in there. They don't cross water, these tunnels, neither do vampires. Mm,
I,
and the demodogs are very vampire-like. They just drain your blood, right? They tear you apart and they
they
drink
eat your
blood.
innards, don't they?
They're drinking the blood because they leave the rest of the body there. It's not like they're eating the whole body. So they're obviously
Oh,
going through the blood.
I thought they were chomping. I always thought they were eating them.
They're chomping. They're chomping. They're very messy eaters, but there's always a lot of blood everywhere, and they're attracted by blood, by the scent of blood, in episode 1. That's where Barb first gets killed
Mm,
because she cut her finger and it goes into the pool and the thing
right.
smells it and comes up. So
Okay,
yeah,
so
it's very vampire-like.
the writers, so as they write these things, they're trying to figure out what's going to be a satisfying story. And I think that the secret for me behind the feeling of the monsters is saying, why did this feel satisfying? Why did this? I mean, it definitely does, and it works visually, and as a entertainment experience because of the reality of the production. But deep down, it is these feel right. So what is it that feels right about them is something to be frightened about. Feel
One
like
thing,
the horror is turned, the things that we haven't been able to see that are there, and that once
yeah.
we do see, it turns out that everything we've thought was real is wrong.
Right, so they start with the Demogorgon and the Demodogs, and then they turn up the heat some more, and you get the Shadow Monster, and then the Mind Flayer, and then you get Vecna,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the real horror, which is the he's like Satan, he's like the great accuser. He's going to remind you of everything bad you ever did and use that to control you.
Right.
So it's really well done that way because it just kept turning up the heat. And I think that's part of what works with why it's scary, because it's like, "Oh my gosh, what's next? What's next? What's next?" Because it keeps getting worse.
Well, but we keep watching because we clearly want to know how, it's like, are we going to be, are
Yeah.
you going to show us? So
Let's see a resolution.
well, yes, we want to see a resolution. The tunnels, I think it's like I find it, I playing metaphors on all of these, like everything's connected, right?
Yeah, it
Right?
looks
That feeling that we've
yeah.
been constantly having since, we all got locked down and closed up and not able to talk and spend all our time on the internet meeting each other. Uh, right? And so I keep finding that their monsters are very immediate because they constantly point to our media environment. First the electricity and the upside down and the sort of electric reality that's in, and then the tunnels of these sort of the connections that you hadn't been aware of but that are actually all there.
Right.
Yeah. And then we have the dogs, right? Which I didn't know what to do about the demo dog uh situation. I mean, it's a good plot problem for that the one demo dog is friends with Dustin, sort of. Yeah.
It
And
looks
so
like evolution. I wish
doesn't kill them. Right.
yeah, I wish I had taken that picture. I think it was fan art. It was done with a computer, so
Which one?
it's I didn't include it. I'm
Mm.
sorry, but
Oh.
it looked like one of the evolution pictures. So it started with that little slug
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
Will coughed up, and then it went to the larger slug, and then the Demodog, and then the Demogorgon, right? So it just keeps getting bigger, right? So the monsters keep getting bigger that way. Um, I lost track of what I was going to
That's
say
like
there.
Pokemon. The Pokemon do that too. They start off in one thing and then they evolve and they turn into another thing and then they get bigger and then, oh my gosh, this is what
Oh,
it
that's
really
funny.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I thought, I mean, the interesting thing of I find, okay, the demo dog is the one that I find the most like unplaceable in this sort of curious thing because
They're hellhounds.
well, I mean they're dogs, right? But it's like this funny image of Steve holding one wrapped up in a blanket, like, I mean it's dead, but it's wrapped up
Yeah.
in a blanket like a baby that he puts in the fridge, right?
That
it
was so gross.
but
And
it's
again, the physical thing he's carrying, is slimy and gross, and he puts it in the fridge where your food is.
well, they've taken all the
So,
food out by that point, but it's
not all of it.
he's
There were
carrying it
condiments
like a
in there.
child or like a baby, and I'm like, are we what is this monster showing us, right? Because the other ones I can find, the not the Mind Flayer yet, the dust, the shadow monster,
Shadow monster.
and the tunnels and all of that makes sense. The demo dogs just leave me confused
Hmm.
because you're almost like, are I the oh, we're supposed to feel like they're cute. They
Yeah,
eat Sean Astin's character. What's his
they
name?
do. They do.
I don't remember his
Bob.
character. Bob.
Bob.
Which I found, I get more of the behind the scenes stuff. He was supposed to die earlier in the season, and then they
Yeah,
liked him too much. They kept
he
him
was
going.
right, and Will was supposed to kill him.
Okay.
And they
Uh,
said, "We can't do that. That's just too mean." I think that
Right.
they liked Sean Astin so much. They said, "We just don't wanna kill him off yet."
Well, I
And
did
it
watch.
actually worked out much better.
It worked better, and he gets a more heroic death, right?
Yes.
The Jurassic Park death, as opposed to whichever one they
Yes.
were gonna do. Um, and yet you're supposed, it's like you have Steve cradling one of these things.
He was just I think he was just carrying it and put it in the fridge. I didn't read anything more into than that. I didn't.
It was one of those things that bugged me when at the moment I was watching it, going, that is, it's like, it's, why is it wrapped up in a blanket?
Honestly, I think it was just, I think it looked absurd, and I think maybe they were going for a bit of comic relief
Hmm.
because it just looked ridiculous. And yeah, they're putting it in the fridge, and you can just see the mom freaking out later.
Well, yes, that I can imagine. The the
Yeah,
horror of finding it in the
it's
fridge
like
later, but
the time my brother and his friends captured a snake in an empty milk jug and brought it in the house. And I've never seen my mother scream so loud so quickly before to get it out of her house. So I guess that's what I was thinking. The snake was alive, by the way.
oh,
Anyway.
I've had the experience of being teased with plastic, like crayfish and centipedes and stuff like that, and I will be screaming, looking at it and knowing it's fake, and I'll still be screaming.
Are you afraid of
It's
crayfish?
well, it's more that the application of the horror, the application of the monster is right in these are trained operators who know how to scare me, and they will
Oh, okay.
get it right in my line of sight, and I'll start screaming, and then I'll look at it and go, okay, I'm thinking to myself, like, prefrontal cortex going, that's fake, and the rest of me is screaming, right? It's,
So you're having a conversation with yourself.
I mean, I'll be in
You're
conversation with myself going, I know that's a toy.
Yeah.
And
It's like I'll be
still,
like, I know it's a toy and I don't care. Get it away from me.
I know it's a toy, and I'm still screaming as if it's a real thing, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not, oh, well, anyway, okay, so let's move on to Mind Flayer. Mind Flayer
Okay.
is downright gross. And there's, I mean, I suppose, it comes and, inhabits the mall, which I find an interesting problem.
Yeah.
Um,
It's pretty grotesque.
and
It's like yeah.
and it's
It's like sorry, it's like a giant crab that's made out of like goo and garbage. It's pretty gross.
well, no, it's meant to be it's like the rats and it's itself. I mean, why it's called a Mind Flayer, because it has its origins in the Dungeons and Dragons
Mhm.
set, right? But and that it takes, sucks out people's, so it's sort of like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers without the pods.
Yeah, that's what it was, right?
Yeah, which I did see. I'm starting to realize I saw all of these movies. I can't believe, how did I watch all these movies when I hate horror? I still
'Cause they were
cannot.
always on Saturdays.
No, I saw these in theaters.
Did you? No.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I'm only 2 years older than you are, but I don't know how I managed to like see all these things in theaters.
I'm surprised you saw a bunch of horror movies in theaters since you don't like horror.
Me too. I know I saw Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the movie theater. So I remember Donald
I did
Sutherland
not.
screaming.
That's the only scary part of that movie is when he points and screams, and it still makes a great meme as old as it is.
Again, the absence of memes from Stranger Things is still very curious. Um,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, with them being transformed and turned into pod people,
Yeah.
the Mind Flayer people are not as scary as the Body Snatcher people. And I mean, it's like that they march in, and they're going to assemble themselves into this giant squishy
Right.
physical shadow monster thingy. The Mind Flayer
Right.
was the least effective for me, as a, like, it just seemed like oozy and
It was
gross.
body horror, which yeah, it's I don't like body horror. It's pretty gross. Yeah, as a gross out, it was pretty effective.
Yeah, because the Foley guys had fun with that one. Squish, squish, squish. Oh, stop it.
Blech.
Hey,
No,
I watched a great discussion of how the guys did the sound for, like, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to get those sounds right, and
Hmm.
and the sound engineers, it's often things that you don't, I mean, they're like sound art, right? So they are
Yes.
finding things that sound right for the thing that they're trying to show on screen, but it isn't necessarily the thing that you're seeing. I mean, the sound itself is never the thing you're seeing. That they add all of this later, but it to make the sounds make the right effect for, it's like music. It has to be, so. However, they're making those squishy sounds for the Mind Flayer. They're I don't know, beating pumpkins or who knows what, right there.
Yeah, I remember, this is a long time ago. I was in 8th grade, and our teacher had a record player, like, had a, like, vinyl. It was a little compact record player, portable, and she had a Halloween album on it that must have been recorded in the 50s or the 60s, but all it was gross sounds. Yeah,
That's
and I
it,
remember that
right?
squishy sound. Yes, oh, and here's something, this person's being turned inside out. It's and it was a bit like the Mind Flayer.
So Mel is
I
saying
just happened to think of that.
the Mind Flayer was the shadow becoming incarnate. Yes,
Right.
that's accurate.
Right,
Uh,
in a completely corrupted way, using the crushed and mutilated bodies of its victims.
right. And she's also saying Vicuna's feed makes the same squishy noise.
I don't know what that
I
is.
don't know either. Um,
Sorry.
it's I don't know. Yeah, the Solvayet coagula, which is, I mean, the Mind Flayer is frightening, and the guy playing Billy, I mean, I'm in love with Dacre Montgomery. He's amazing.
I know you are. He was amazing. I
Just
mean, he was.
smolder, smolder, smolder. Man, he did a good job on that part.
He did a good job, and I got it's whoever costumed him and did hair and makeup. I mean, honestly, bravo. This guy looks like 2 or 3 out of every 10 guys I knew in high school. He really did. He
Where did
dressed
you
the
go to
same
high
way.
school? My goodness. Huh.
Well, it was a pretty common look. It was, you know. They did a good job. I felt like I was binge watching the 80s watching this movie. Sorry, this series. It's a
Yes.
series of movies.
Yes. Well,
Yeah, so you're not just binge watching Stranger Things. At least in seasons 1 and 2, you were binge, especially 2, you were binge watching the 80s there. But yeah,
right, which
he did very well.
which we talked about, well, we've talked about in various ways. The haunting that I'm feeling, what you and I were talking about before we started, it's like I was rewatching a little bit to get in the right mood, and what I ended up hitting was Steve and Nancy's first makeout scene in season 1, episode 1, and
Mhm.
the song, which I had to look up because I didn't know what it was, even though I've
All
heard it all
right.
my life, or since it was out, right? The Toto's Africa, and I'm like, ah, now I'm haunted by song,
I
which
did
I'm
not
sure
like
I
that
heard at the
song.
time, right? I'm sure it's absolutely
It
accurate
was
to
so overplayed.
stuff that I roller skated to, right? In that time of my life when that kind of make out, oh my gosh, I'm just like in hell. And so
In hell?
I
Really? Why?
the okay, so yeah, you guys, you get all my confessions with watching Stranger Things. Um, the horror that they've captured for me, just being 13. Oh my gosh.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Or
That
15,
is a
or,
horror.
it's just like, oh my god, it's like, forget all the Mind Flayers and the squishy monsters and the upside down and stuff like that. It's being a teenager. It's
Being a
just
teenager again.
so painful and horrible, and I have the diaries to prove it.
Yeah, that's the real horror. The real horror is you're confronted by the poetry you wrote when you were 16, isn't that?
Okay, the
That's what
poetry
the
was
Mind Flayer's
fine,
gonna do.
right? The
Mine was not.
well,
I've removed all evidence of on the earth from it. So
I know I saw my diaries. But the thing is, I remember what it felt like to be trapped in that time. Right? It's like it's a few years. It's a short amount of time. It's like, you're 13 to 16 or 17. You go off to college. It's not that big a deal. What's so hard, right? But it feels like forever, and it feels like you cannot. I mean, I feel like for you, you and I both moved in that time, right? That I went
yeah.
from being in middle school, 6, 7, 8, and then high school starting in one place, and then we moved to another place, and so 9, 10, 11, 10, 11, 12 was in a different school. And telling it like that and saying it was like, the last 7 years that we've gone through from 2018 or 29 years. Okay, anyway, it's shorter amount of time than between the first season of Stranger Things and now.
I still feel like I'm stuck in my trig class in 1983, and I'm desperately trying to stay awake and failing miserably. That was a long year.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The
Yeah,
years of those days were horrible. From one school year to the next, it feels like an eternity. I mean,
it did.
so
And then it moved at lightning speed, as a second after graduation,
hmm hmm
which was really strange, but it was real.
Right. So, but I'm saying that listening to Africa is more horrifying to me than the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer is just
Priorities, man.
the manifestation of the feeling of being trapped in the mall. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I would have preferred to be in the mall. I liked being in the mall. The mall was fun. They got that right too, and they got the arcade right for sure.
Okay, so you clearly had a different mall experience than mine. I was trying to, we've been trying to explain the mall where I was when I was a freshman. We were in Louisville, and where we lived, the suburb there were several malls, which I've since, like, I think, driven around the city enough when my dad was living there to realize where they were. But to get to
Mm.
them, we had to go on the freeway, right? So there was, everywhere else we could get to on that we wanted to get to was bikes, right? But we couldn't bike to the mall. So the only way we could
Mhm.
get there was if my mom drove us. And I don't, I mean, it's like, I remember I remember the candles, right? There were candle shops that
Oh
made
yeah.
like loopy like talk about the
It's
Mind Flayer,
artistic.
right? It's like the loopy
Yeah.
candle stuff, and there's Spencer's Gifts. You have to remember Spencer's Gifts because
Yep.
yep.
And
uh,
there was a store called Merry Go Round, which went out of business a long time ago, but they sold really cheap, junky kind of clothes for teenage girls.
right. So
Junk
all of
jewelry
these,
too.
and then weirdly enough, at one end of the mall, this mall in Louisville, they had, I kid you not, a airman's suit with a gas mask in a
Why?
display case. Why? I don't know. But so for me, the mall is overridden by, it smelled funny down at that part of, I was like, maybe there was a popcorn shop or something. I mean, there was so my whole sense of a mall is pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Oh my gosh, weird gas mask, like, flight suit thing. I'm the one who was afraid of the abominable snowman. I didn't want to go to the mall. You ended up having to look at that gas mask flight suit thing. It would make sense if it was in Midway Airport here. It's like, at least it has to do with flying.
This is the part where I tell you I went to a lot of army museums because I was bored on the weekends. So I'm really used to seeing all that kind of
Gas
stuff.
masks. They're really terrifying just all by
Mm.
themselves. Right. And they're and
You should see the confiscated booby traps from the Second World War. Gas masks are nothing. They're your friend.
I know, that's what's funny about them. They're meant to be like protective gear, and instead they're terrifying to me. And they're
They're
associated with malls.
terrifying.
So in fact, it makes perfect sense that Billy has to fight this Mind Flayer thing in the mall, because that's what you find in malls, terrifying Mind Flayers.
That's why you like Billy. He became your hero because he destroyed the monster in the mall.
Oh, I liked it before I got to that part of the episode. Come on, you guys, you all, I hear tell you have that some watchers in our community have a affinity for Steve. So see, got her. I still
Steve's
think
gonna die.
I
I'm
still
trying to steel
I
myself.
still
I
think
just know
Jonathan
he's
is
gonna die.
cuter, but there you go.
Jonathan's very cute. Yes.
And
But
we do agree that
Steve is
Jonathan
very
looks like
heroic.
Christian Slater.
Oh, he does. Yeah, his eyes,
Playing
definitely.
against Winona Ryder, and it's like, it's okay. Sorry, we're off track now. Claire's ear piercing, coming of age for girls.
Yep,
Remember that? Yes, getting the
absolutely.
ear piercing in the malls.
I
I
think I
got
got
my
my ears
first
pierced
two.
there.
These all came from malls. Like,
Yeah.
this one's in Louisville. This one's in Amarillo. For sure. Um, Mel saying, I get all my music boxes from the Disney store. What
Oh, I
about some
remember those
ortho
stories. They
bros
were
at the
fun.
wheel fencing mother? I don't know what you're asking.
I don't either.
Come back home, scared mom. Okay. Right. Anyway, the Mind Flayer is it's an interesting monster. It didn't, you know, it's like I'm still with the Upside Down, and the first one as being my favorite of the really like scary monsters, and I
Hmm.
thought the Shadow Monster was good. The Mind Flayer, it's okay, so the incarnation of the monster, it turns into, I mean, like the battle that the kids have to have in the shack
Mhm.
house, right? It's I don't know why it wasn't as satisfying for me. Okay, just I the thing about Billy getting like sucked into it, that they were clearly developing something that comes to fruition in Vecna.
Hmm.
Uh, but we're not at Vecna yet. We're at 11. we've taken to 11. What kind of monster is 11? Because she's clearly worried that she is.
She is worried, which means she's not, because if she were a monster, she wouldn't be worried at all.
Mm. I mean, but it's interesting how they spend a lot of all of the arc of all of the seasons toying with the problem of how dangerous she is.
Yes, she was purposefully being developed as a weapon. All the children were, and she did kill people in self-defense, and then she killed Vecna, partially for vengeance. I think that was where she was blurring the line. Was it vengeance, or was it just to protect herself because he was going to try to drag her into this?
Mm.
I think it was a little bit of both, and I think that's why that's what's been torturing her. Did she kill righteously or for vengeance?
Which time?
When she first sent Henry Creel into the Upside Down,
Oh,
when she killed
okay.
him after he killed
Right.
all the children,
Well, she's not killing
right?
she's not killing Vecna at that point
Right.
because he isn't Vecna at that point. She's
Right. He
she
becomes he
he's
becomes
one.
Vecna,
Yeah.
as they call him. But in season 3, she doesn't have her powers, and they said, "Were you trying to kill that girl?" She said, "I don't know. I don't know." Right? She really didn't know what was going through her head. She thought if she'd had her power, she might have just killed her out of anger. So she is constantly questioning herself, which makes her not a monster. Henry Creel never questioned himself. He got
Mm.
fascinated with Black Widow spiders and started drawing what became the Shadow Monster, which was a giant Black Widow spider.
Right. Well, so what I so the what I think we've been touching on this a little bit, but saying that it helps to go through the monsters in order of appearance because they're in
Yes,
order of revelation
right.
to the Duffer Brothers themselves, I think, right? Because they're writing all
Hmm.
of this.
But they're writing flashbacks in it too, so it kind of,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
as a storytelling like arc, it's but as far as I can tell, based on my extensive past 2 weeks research in YouTube and books and things, they didn't know all of this when they started, right? That they
Hmm.
started simply with, like they say this in the, I think they said this in this script. Um, yeah, okay, so they're talking. This is in the script, the first season 1 script, and they're talking about how, and also you can't completely believe everything artists say about where they get their ideas because some of it just happens and then later you figure out why it was worked and it's cool. We've just figured out something very cool in Act 4 and we had no idea what was happening and now it's there and it's perfect, right?
But I
So
but I do believe them. I do believe they know where they got it from eventually. But when they're creating it, they're not quite sure where they plucked it. But
right, and
I,
so the way they
yeah.
tell it is they had a they liked not paranormal activity. I don't know what that is. um they're pitching different ideas, right, and saying everything changed in the fall of 2013 when we saw the film Prisoners, an intense thriller about a young girl who's tragically abducted, and her family and the police chief are determined to find her and bring her home. We liked it so much that we found ourselves wishing it was longer. Perhaps we thought there was something to a TV show about a child's kidnapping. It might be cool if not exactly original. The next morning, it struck us. What if we took the structure of the child kidnapping storyline and merged it with our old Montauk idea, inspired by this Montauk project on in New York. A child goes missing, but instead of being kidnapped by a serial killer, he's taken by a demonic force, stolen into an alternate dimension. Set in the 1980s, the story would channel the works of Stephen King and Steven Spielberg, the kinds of stories we grew up loving. We still vividly remember the rush of excitement when the idea clicked. We knew it could be special. That they don't have Vecna in mind when they first start, and that they are themselves as artists over the years working on this project, gradually seeing how the seed of the thing that they started with reveals itself to be further. But I don't. I mean, it's like, so a spidery thing. It's like it's trying to. It's like Tolkien trying to figure out where he came up with his stories, and sometimes he's getting them straight from other stuff that he's not admitting. Like the Treebeard is directly taken from Lewis's Out of the Silent Planet, when the Sorns
Oh.
it's a unfortunately for me, Holly Ordway did this deep book on all of his sources and readings, and I'm like, stop it. Because
Stop ruining it.
well, no, and this it's like there's a big sort of tension here. It's like, if I do all these footnotes and tell you how they make things and all the references and the monsters came from here and such, is it satisfying, or does it kill it? Is it? And I spent this week in my undergraduate class trying to convince them that Dante is doing the same thing as the Duffer Brothers are. This is Dantean, and it's exercise of, you are telling a story by telling all the other stories that you liked already, but it's a completely new story, but it has references to all of your previous. Like, Dante has Virgil guiding him around hell and purgatory, for goodness sake, right? It's like,
he picked his favorite author.
he picked his favorite author. And not only that, he put himself in the story. Dante, the character, is taken around purgatory and, hell and purgatory by Virgil. And then this is great, right? In the purgatory, when they get to the cornice of the, I think it's the Covetous, and they hear a bell ring, right? And it turns out it's Statius, who is another poet who has just, it's interesting how the mechanism of purgatory works, whether they recognize that they've done enough or something. I don't know. And the bell rings, and he gets to change levels. And so Dante is talking to him and saying, no, how have you been? Where, what are you up to? And Statius is talking to him about how inspired he was by Virgil as a fellow poet. and no, in the poem, you can just see it happening in something like, strange. Dante smiles, and Statius goes, what? Why are you smiling? And and Virgil's going, shh, stop. And Dante says, well, he's here. And Statius goes, oh, and it's literally straight up from Wayne's World. We're not worthy. And Virgil's going, stop it. I'm here, blah, blah, blah. And it's so funny to recognize that this exact kind of, here the Duffer Brothers are saying, we saw this, and we that gave us this idea for the story, and we put it in here, and our monster came from their monster, the Demogorgon. It doesn't come just from from Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons took it from, I don't know, Milton, who took it from, the demon lore of antiquity, who, blah, 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 blah. That these stories that echo across tradition, right?
Yes.
It works because the artists themselves keep going, oh, that's a cool idea.
Right. Everybody's fanboying everybody else.
Everybody's fanboying everybody else, right? So if you start finding all these, like 11 is L, and okay, that's God, right? That it's I mean, it's literally what Tolkien did with all of his stuff by writing the backstory on his own story. It's world building, but at this level of, you're taking all of the pieces that are satisfying to you and putting them into your own story, which is actually completely itself, and you don't need to know any of these references. But then if you do know the references, it's more pleasurable at certain levels, right? Misheard this. Perhaps Doc is Dante. Well, I don't know. Anyway,
We're working on
it. I mean, this is all her story, ultimately.
The Duffer Brothers said it was Will's.
they okay. So Will, okay, Will is. I mean, if now we're doing like the high allegory that they're playing with, his name is Will,
I know. That's pretty cool.
as in free
Yeah,
will, right? It's
right.
oh, it's the soul. and
Mhm.
and El God is saving the soul, but the doubt that she has about herself. This I've riffed off of this and I forgot where I was going with it. The teenage girl, the terror, the what kind of
Mhm.
horror you are. Am I the monster?
Mhm.
That's the real coming of age horror that I don't know. I certainly went through. Right, you go through this of. I mean, okay, so one, this, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. All of the gates look like vaginas.
I was thinking Eye of Sauron in the big gate that Elle closed
No, I'm
season 2.
sorry. They all look like vaginas. And this could be because I read too much medieval devotional literature, and the side wound always looks like a vagina to absolutely every like feminist scholar that has written about these in the last like 30 years. Their birth, I mean, it's like places that birth happens. I mean, the monsters come through. I mean, it's how can you not see it? They're not eyes, Sauron. They're sexuality.
Okay, but it did look like the Eye of Sauron, though. It was flaming. It was this big, gigantic flaming eye they were standing in front of Elle and Hopper.
I'm sorry, the horror. It's a father daughter moment that they're trying to figure out how do we control our life, which is like literally the biggest problem that we go through in teenagedom because we are becoming sexually mature.
This is starting to sound a bit like second wave feminist literature.
Well, I don't know what
from
to
the,
do with this
from the
thought,
80s.
but it hit me and I'm expressing it now because we're being confessional and true, right? And then that turns into the problem. It turns into the horror of like which okay, here's the group of teenage girls tormenting Elle at the skating rink or Papa.
Mm. Or they're both bad, but they're not equally bad.
Well, I mean, but I mean the when I was asking for monsters, the collection of images I got, it's like suddenly based on your and Mel's research, everybody turned into a monster, and I'm like, okay, that's an interesting problem.
Well, everybody wasn't a monster, but Angela, which was an interesting choice of name too, her main
Angela,
torturer,
yes, yes.
she
Central
does she
torturer is named Angela.
right, she does what Vecna does, right? She uses your pain against you,
Yeah,
right? She was mocking her father's death,
mocking that Hopper had died.
Hopper's death. Yeah,
Right.
she was, oh, your dad. Oh, your dad. That's right. You don't have one. Oh, yeah, sorry. You wanted to. Honestly, I was glad she clocked her in the face when I escaped.
Well, but
Like,
that's I mean,
now
but
she
that's
knows what pain is.
right, but that's the real horror for Elle, right? And
Mhm.
I actually wrote about this in the newsletter last week. Um, that okay, so there's the different layers of horror, right? There's this big supernatural reality that we're in of life and death.
Mhm.
There's the problem of our temptation and the horror of giving into the thing that turns us away from God. There's the social power that I think the shadow monster is really good demonstration of the social power that we felt exercised in the COVID nonsense.
Mhm.
But I mean, terribly real because people were gonna like hurt each other over whether or not they were behaving with the right ritual performances in this nonsense space, right?
Yeah, it
It's
was
very hard
maddening.
to remember how horrible that was.
Yeah. It was. I've always been very sensitive to lies. They trigger my anger very quickly.
Mm.
And that entire era was everybody engaging in performative lying, and it was really infuriating.
Well, and
Um,
where it came from and how it was so it's like I do think the shadow monster projected prophesied that very well. Like
mm,
but it all comes I mean the true horror other than the supernatural horror is real, I think, but the social horror of one, this Angela and her circle of peers, right, versus Papa as the terrifying adult who, I mean, the child abuse is definitely there, right? Because it's shown that he is abusing her to increase her powers. You say to train her,
Yes,
to turn
he's
her into
abusing
it.
all the children.
He's abusing
He's
all of them.
abusing, and he's definitely grooming them to attach to him.
Right, with all of the mind games and tricks and deprivations and punishments and
Hmm.
rewards and that we know people use. But we know, I mean, the Angela scene is unfortunately incredibly real, I mean, what's funny about it is, like, I never had anybody do that. Well, okay, so never had anybody do that quite to me in high school. Did have bullies earlier than that when I was younger. And of
Hmm.
course, as I wrote about in the newsletter last week, the online ones that I had a few years
Yeah,
ago, which were just as vicious and
right.
bitchy.
People who bully don't grow out of it. They just get more creative.
Mm. But that, that for Elle, that she doesn't have her powers at that point, but that is that sort of, she's even the most monstrous thing she does is you know what do you, I'm losing all my words tonight. Smack, it's not smack, clock, I don't know.
I called it clocking, but she
Clock
smacked her in the
Angela
face.
with
She
that.
broke her nose.
Right, with this, you could imagine doing that, right? That's a real thing. It's hard to imagine, like,
Hmm.
breaking someone's neck with your mind, but you can
Yeah,
imagine picking up a skate and swinging it at someone who was humiliating you and using, as you were saying, your sorrow against you.
yeah. Right. This is Hopper. He gets to, cut off the limbs and the head of the Demogorgon, which is what you really want to do. It's what she really wanted to do right then, right? It was something physically she could do to stop the pain.
Yes, but you can't just kill Angela because,
And you can't just break a kid's nose. Don't do that, kids. Don't do this at home.
no, don't.
We don't really approve outside of fiction.
So Robert's asking, what's left in the social sciences but unrelated horror and lessening control? All Hallows Eve for prots. Well, sort of, but it's. I mean,
Huh?
the real horror works because it's always tapping into these social traumas that we're trapped in.
Yes. Yeah,
Either
that's right.
the group peer pressure horror, or the growing up with the adults who are supposed to be taking care of you, but are telling, that Papa is, Brenner, very well acted, that he's always, but it's for
Yes.
your own good. I just wanted to take care of you.
Oh, he's so creepy. I mean, honestly, kudos to the actor for that. He just never loses that creep factor.
Well, in the setting, of course, being the skating rink and the Rainbow Room, which I found very interesting.
Mm.
That Rainbow Room, exactly what happens in that Rainbow Room in real life. I think we touched
Mm.
on this a little bit, right? But there's the skating rink. Has that quality of the what it was like among your peers as teenagers. But the Rainbow Room, it's interesting that we go in season 4 from the active bullying that's happening in the Rainbow Room, in the skating rink, to her memories of what happened to her
Right.
in that
Right.
in
Same
that
thing
Rainbow
happened
Room.
there. She got bullied, and it was worse because she was physically attacked, um, as well as being like mentally, attacked.
Well, but interesting, in the Rainbow Room, she was able to use her mind powers, and in the skating rink, she isn't.
Right,
She
but it
doesn't
didn't
have
help her
them.
because she was surrounded by 3 people who were just at the time just as powerful as she was,
Mm.
and they threw her around like a rag doll.
I find it very interesting that the most horrific things that happened to her in this Rainbow Room of all places. It's where Papa, well, it's where she's good. We're going to find out, she's there with Vecna, or he's not Vecna yet. One,
Henry.
Henry. So the greatest monster comes out of the daycare.
It looks like a daycare. Yeah.
It totally looks like a daycare.
Yeah. They're all children.
How did the Duffers come up with a daycare as the place where the greatest horror comes from? Now that's pretty on the nose, I think.
Well, it's gonna grab all the parents, right? That's the horror. You're terrified of leaving your kid in a daycare because they're without you and they're not with their family.
Oh, that's a
At least,
lesson.
at least I experienced that kind of fear
of
myself.
of being left in a daycare. My mom
No,
sent me this, like, the source of all my inability to watch horror is I was taken to daycare at age 4
no, I no
in
for
Albuquerque,
my
where this is filmed. They filmed
yeah.
that skating rink in the same place that I went to daycare when I was 4.
No, I used a daycare for my child
Mm,
when he was very young, and I didn't like having to do that at all. But I think it could tap into those fears of if you're a kid of being left alone without your parents, or if you're a parent, watching this thinking, I hope nothing horrible's happening there, right? I mean, if you really thought so, you wouldn't leave your kid there, but it's just because it's a parent-child relationship, you're immediately going to always be thinking, uh, of hoping, wondering if they're safe where
mm,
they're at because they're not with you, and that's probably the same thing if you send them to school. Same thing, they're not with you. So,
right.
um, so I think it was a good choice for horror there, which I'm sorry I can't thank you for. I could have done without that horror, but
But
but it
the
was effective.
in real in the show. I mean,
Yes,
how hard was that for you to watch then? Because I mean,
it
it was
wasn't
somewhat
until
hard
you
for me
mentioned it.
when I mentioned it. But I mean,
Yeah.
it was actually quite it was the so which of these scenes did I find more painful? Right, watching her in that skating rink scene was really hard for me. I mean, that she was trying so hard to convince Mike that she had friends and that and here they are skating, and I mean it's like probably because too much of my age, that age, was at a skating rink, not in Albuquerque,
Mm.
that was in Louisville. But I mean they perfectly, I saw online some of the people in Albuquerque going, that's our skating rink. So it's actually, still operating, right?
It's still there.
It's
That's
it's
kinda
it's
nice.
it's still there. But I remember all too well all of the anxiety and desire to have maybe it's in 8th grade that we went skating most, and whether you get to have the couples skate and who the kids are there, and the scripted kids in television and movies always like actually have dates and stuff. We
Mhm.
sort of didn't, right? It's kind of
Yeah, we
we're
never had
still
you never had a date
desperately
at the
trying to
at the
figure it
rink.
out,
Yeah.
right? And it's not just Dustin not getting asked to dance, not being able to get anybody to dance with him, but never. It's
Yeah. Poor Dusty. Poor Dusty Bun.
well, anyway, so they wrote that very accurately and well for how it feels like wanting it
Good.
to be right. And so
Mhm.
I found the skating rink, in fact, more painful than the Rainbow Room to watch. But on the other hand, I realized the genius of saying, look, she's basically in a daycare. And so the most terrifying place you can imagine to set something in your horror series is the Rainbow Room.
Yeah. Ugh.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's rainbow stripes on the inside of the high school too.
Yeah.
That was interesting. They repeated the pattern there.
I don't know. Rainbows have had, in the period in which they were making the show, had a different valence.
No, I'm not saying there's anything to that. I'm just
Oh, I think there is.
and
I
in the
don't know
mod in the
I mean,
modern
it's like,
sense.
what are they doing here? This is like pretty edgy stuff
Well, that was a pretty no, that was I think that was a common enough graphic back then, though.
in the 80s, but not in
Yeah,
2022 when they made this.
right. But they were making everything try to look like the 80s. So I think they got that right. I'm more interested
You're not
that
playing
what
with me here very well.
no, so I'm more interested that they did the rainbow room in the lab where they were keeping the kids and the kids were prisoners.
Yes,
So this
that.
this was like this was like the prison yard where they could get exercise
Oh,
and
totally.
recreation. And so they put rainbows in it. That's odd.
Okay,
I think
when
there
we
might be a
were
message
growing
in that
up,
one, but not in
rainbows
high school.
still meant kid space, right?
Yes, we
But
need
the
to take that
horror
back,
of the
by the way.
okay, fine. But the horror of the rainbow rooms in the past decade has been rather different. And I find it very interesting that they're like letting all of these things, but by projecting it back into the 80s, they're constantly showing us stuff about now. Because otherwise the
Mm,
horror doesn't work.
interesting.
The horror only works if it actually taps into our fears now.
Right. All the kids are in a rainbow room and they're all being clearly groomed. All of them. To
Precisely.
be right, to be emotionally attached to one man who insists they call him Papa when he's not their father.
Sounds like child abuse to me.
It does. It does.
Uh, Mel saying the couple skate drove the anxiety of the age. Oh yes. Okay,
I
so
have a
we've
good experience with that, so I can.
you had a
Yeah,
completely aberrantly pleasant growing
no,
up.
I mean the dances were never fun for me because I was basically Dustin in those situations. But the skating rink, yeah, that was just fun. Yeah, and I did get to couples dance with my crush once, so that was fun.
Oh.
But
Hey, I had crushes all the time, and whether I got to dance this couples dance with them or not, it's like the trauma of like anyway. Next trauma is the ICBM silo.
that was
which
interesting.
which
That was real obvious.
oh
She's
yeah,
the new weapon.
she's the new weapon. She's going to be like recover
Well,
her powers by being
yeah.
sent into
Well,
the isolation tank.
The ICBM you show wasn't the weapon, it was just the delivery system. So Nina tank was the delivery system. She's the weapon
Yeah, yeah.
inside of it. That was probably the only obvious thing they did, I think, but it was really well done.
Yeah,
To
this I
put them in
thought was sort of
comparison. Yeah,
clever, right? It's like, yeah, okay, fine. We were haunted by the ICBMs, and there they are, and they're making her into the weapon, and
right.
with the reality of, I mean, and of course in season 4, it's all against Hopper being in the Soviet prison, so
Mhm.
the Cold War level of things. Um, I mean, the true horror that we're somewhat learning about now. Where did I read this? Probably on Substack. The degree to which all the CIA plotting to make sure that we think that the Soviets are, the fake sides. You were to a certain extent pointing to this and wondering where they're going to go in 5, right? I do wonder about
Mm.
this because the thing that we're all very aware of now is how much we were groomed as a country to ramp up our military spending in this way, to create the need for yet more of these rockets and bombs and death delivering systems because we're so convinced that this other side is also doing it, and so it created the rationale for our defense spending, which
Well,
has
we knew they were doing it because we could tell when they were testing. We
yeah,
we
but
we had instruments to be able to pick that up.
who's actually benefiting from all of this?
The people who make the bombs. I think they've been wasting every spare scrap of weaponry they can in Ukraine because it's old stuff and they want to replace it.
Yep, present
I've
horror.
thought this for I've thought this for several years, and meanwhile, people are
They're
getting
killing
murdered
people.
left and right. It's disgusting,
Well, and
and it needs to stop
I
now.
think that, I mean, the Cold War stuff is it. I mean, it's the same, right? It's like we're going to create the situation where we need to. I mean, the best thing that in any power, the thing that every power always wanted was to have a clear enemy to justify building up its weaponry. England and France in the Hundred Years' War.
Well, it's and more to the point, it's the war economy of the Cold War.
Yep,
That's it.
that's it. Yep.
Eisenhower was right. The American general was right. Don't trust them. Military industrial complex. They control everything for the past 60 years.
Yep. Yeah, but Melson, Yahar military industrial complex. So it's like, of all of the monsters, this is the most real and terrifying because it's the one that
Yeah.
actually underpins everything right now. We'll go now to the chess game and the haunted house.
Mm.
My juxtapositions, I mean, some of these I'm just sort of like, these two things go together, I'm not sure why. And then I realized
That is a very good segue.
they
Playing
absolutely
chess.
do. Yeah.
Cold War, playing chess, predictive moves, right? Who's the pawn? Who's the king?
Oh, we never get out.
Well, eventually we will. Not without Christ.
Well, with well, I wonder. So I, you know, they've been hinting this the whole series of like if she's 11 and she's L, and you know, like the degree to which this is or isn't a actual spiritual story that they're working with. That the horror works when it taps into our psychological traumas and our life experience traumas and our social traumas. But I mean, if it doesn't go to Christ, what will you think at the end
What do you mean?
of the series?
Oh, I don't think they're going to make a direct Christian allegory. They've been doing very well keeping it. I wouldn't call it vague, but keeping it perfectly in line with just well, what was I going to?
Well, secular reality, right? But the thing is,
Yeah.
it's not actually okay. So here, Vecna is the last one, and then you have before I got to it, you and Mel were talking about Vecna all the time. It's like, oh, wait till you get to Vecna. Wait till you get to Vecna. I
Yeah.
said, what's so special about Vecna?
Well, he's the devil.
Well, see, you can't defeat the devil without Christ.
No, you can't. And it's so fascinating that when he's bringing 11 into his memories, right, to show him what was going on in his mind when she killed him, he said, "I thought you sent me to purgatory." He used the word purgatory. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty blatant. She says, but it was a new place. It was someplace new. And as he falls, he changes. And the landscape, he just starts walking around it like he's the king, right? And you get the idea that he's actually created this place himself, which
Interesting.
is what Christians believe Lucifer did. He created hell himself, right? He created this place for himself. And he wants to remake it in his own image. Which
I've
is
never heard
horrific and
that
twisted.
Satan created hell. Tell me more about this.
Oh, I cannot name any source, but when Satan fell,
I don't think he's not actively. It's like this is a Morgoth problem.
Morgoth
from Silmarillion, right? It was like Morgoth plays against the music and goes out into the void. The whole problem with the Satan's fall is that he wants to be God and isn't, so he can't create.
I think
There's no
I
creation.
think I'm remembering this from some piece of fiction that tried to visualize what happened.
Okay.
Right.
Well, it could be Milton.
So
the Demogorgon actually appears in Paradise Lost, although I haven't chased down that particular reference, right? So it's like we're circling back to the Demogorgon.
Right. It's better to rule in hell than serve in heaven, right?
Right.
So the idea is that this is his kingdom, and he's creating these things
it happens around him as he falls. It's part of it's like a rupture into creation. But that is actually a problem. It's like, so Henry, who's one, as in 11 is one, right? 11 and 1. And I'm wondering what the digital digital 001 versus 011, what are they playing with there?
It's a mirror image, right? Or it's kind of.
Yeah. It's too tempting. Exactly. Where does he? I think this because this is the I don't have a picture of that. The true upside down is his.
Yes. He's corrupted. He wants to corrupt the rest of the world. That's a straight up satanic um, reference
Right.
because that's what Satan wants to do.
But so what I saw in the character one that the people he's hunting start seeing the clock, which we know comes from the house, right? But it's also, let's say,
Yeah.
it's time, right? So carrying on with my theory of the monsters tap into our real anxieties and the real horrors that we're coping with. We're trapped in the time of the internet always, right? It's like, I mean, the sort of the exactness of time that we all live in now, it's more, even more so than the effect of the electric light. Of, have you noticed this? And I think it really hit when we were all on having to do Zoom meetings, and you'd
Mm,
be looking at the clock and me exact time when, okay, I have a meeting now and it's going to start now. People are not, they don't tend to be actually, like if you, when people show up for class or something, right, the body's moving through space, you don't always make it to class exactly on the minute. But Zoom meetings always started exactly on the clock, I found,
mhm.
which was interesting. And because of the way we are governed by our devices and the clocks in them and everything's to time. I mean, in this clock is the grandfather clock, and it's, pendulum clock and
Yeah.
such. But the feeling of being captured in time now is very, very powerful.
It also sounds like a broken clock when it chimes.
Mm.
It sounds like the chime is broken and it's twisted. It's cacophonic, and it always shines 4 times, like for the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right?
I hadn't noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because Max points it out. It chimes exactly 4 times. Max and Nancy both pointed that out, I think.
I thought it was because they were counting down the people, right? She got four because she was the fourth.
Yep, she was the 4th, but they said it always rings 4 times. Somebody pointed that out
Hmm.
in the was it the finale or the second to the last? I just watched the last of it last night.
So there's the time part, and then when he's what he's doing is, which we see in the various layers between, you're saying, Elle is in his mind, and so she sees his house where they're all being in the pillars,
Yeah.
in the red place, right?
Mhm.
But then what they see in the upside down is him ascended and attached to everything, to the
Yeah.
other people. So this, to me, I mean, of the horror that we're the problem of the shadow monster plus the mind flayer plus Vecna is attached to everything. I mean, what it feels to me like, it's like they're still playing with their electric media insight, which is the horror is all being connected.
Hmm. Yeah, like wires,
Yeah.
like communication wires,
Yep.
like the hive mind, they said.
Like a
But
hive
it's also
mind.
right, it's also like a spider web too, because that's how it works. If you touch one of the webs, the rest of them all vibrate, and they alert the spider that the prey
Constantly.
is there.
Right. So that they're actually describing the horror of our being in the internet,
Yeah,
which we have to
yeah,
be in order to watch their show.
true. Hmm.
Whether they're doing it, I can't tell, right? It's like they're not going to show all of their cards when they're talking about their artistic practice.
Yeah,
So whatever they say, it's like on Variety when they're doing their, promotional discussions and stuff. Okay, fine. Um, but the feeling of the horror that they're playing, I mean, it's like it's gone from what it was like being in the pandemic to what it's like being all somehow. It's like the mind flayer with Billy is, we don't even get to be our own bodies. We don't even get to be our own bodies. We all have to be the same blubby, mushy, melty, be alive body that's not even you anymore. That feels very pandemic-y.
hmm,
That our disease is, we're all just one big diseased blob.
hmm. Not sure I'm following that.
I'm trying to figure out why the monsters worked so well, because they do work. They absolutely, absolutely worked. And it's not just because, so we're back to the Demogorgon, right? Here he is. That they
Mm-hmm.
took, character monsters from the Dungeons and Dragons and made them run around in
Mm-hmm.
suits, right? It's like they created this horror by being incredibly attuned to the things that we're actually all really afraid of right now. And what E. Michael Jones said when he did the Monsters from the Id is that what people were most worried about, and what the horror of that the 70s and 80s tends to show, is the specific horror of sexuality. And he has a whole discussion of aliens and how it's about the fear with birth control and abortion, and
Right.
but what they're fighting is this egg monster.
Well, pregnancy is going to get you, and then AIDS is going to get you, right?
Pregnancy
Any
and
number of
AIDS, right?
STDs are going to get you, and now COVID's going to get you, and you never know when you're just going to collapse and die.
Right, that.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's very predator-like
Mm-hmm.
too, like this unseen thing that's after you and is going to kill you if you're not careful.
Exactly.
If you don't do exactly what I say, right? Which is what Papa keeps telling the children.
Right.
Ugh. More horror.
Which then raises the interesting predictive question of what they've come up with for season 5.
And now I'm afraid to watch it.
Well, I mean, if they're doing their craft properly, and they've been paying attention, which is what these guys do, right? They look at all of the stories. They're like this perfect. I mean, Mind Flayers, talk about that, right? They're like Dantean in their ability to pick up all of the things that are going on out around them. And
Yeah.
and their response is glee, in the sense of, oh cool, look, we'll put that in too. But because I mean, their main monster is Vecna, who's like attached to everybody. So
Yeah.
they are out there attaching themselves to all of our fears and anxieties. And
Like the central processing unit,
mm-hmm.
right? He's collecting everybody's thoughts, what they say right here, what they type, the pictures they take, all their memories,
It's the AI.
maybe,
Everything. Everything.
or it's just the internet itself. I think I just scared her.
Well, interesting. I'm not feeling scared, and this is bad, because I'm thinking, okay, so does this mean, and this is a challenge for them as storytellers, right? It's like, is there still a fear to be tapped into, or, and this is, I say this, right? It's like, in 2018, I had the horror of finding out that my academic colleagues were not willing to see the experiment that I'd been doing, uh, empathetically, which is ironic since it was an experiment in empathy. um, and that what I was trying to do, in where my book is, I can't find it. Oh, it's there, right? This book, My Marrying the Art of Prayer, was in
Mhm.
fact imagine myself into the internet world of the Middle Ages. And I can explain this now. I couldn't explain it back in 2018.
Hmm.
Therefore, my horror, because I'm like, but I showed you this wonderful thing. Why aren't you interested in seeing it? And they're all saying, no, 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 that's not real. It's not accurate. And I'm like, actually, I mean, like 7 years later now, I'm like, I'm so right. I can't. Jim Shaw, doc, you know, uh, Dr. Jim Shaw, the Jesuit, saw it all. And in this beautiful review he wrote of my book right before he died, yes, really he did. And it was published the week after he died. So, wow. Said that I had absolutely tapped into what Thomas Aquinas said about devotion, that it needed an
Cool.
object, and that I had in my book, which he read in the last year of his life, which is a great gift, captured the sense of what it was like to be in the office of Our Lady. And what I've realized in the years since then, when I had to go through the horror of saying, why didn't you understand? Why couldn't you hear me? I have, okay, so I'm going to do my L thing, right? The feeling of losing your powers. Oh my gosh. And you thought you had them, and you thought you were able to show people stuff, and you thought you were able I was thinking about this thinking about what they put Elle through as a character, that she
Mhm.
lost her powers, and why don't you believe me anymore, right? This I know, I've been there, right?
Mm.
I don't know whether I've got my powers back yet, but we'll find out. That going through with you guys writing Drake Alchemicus and putting together all the pieces and looking at McLuhan and saying, I get it now, what I was trying to show you, which was how do you get inside of a culture that is carrying all of these references and images and links and resonances and is so vivid and real to them that they will transform their entire imagined world into praise of this particular object. And it's, both Christ and Our Lady, but Our Lady showing you Christ, right?
Mhm.
And it's, it I don't feel scared anymore because I know I was right. I'm absolutely right about the beauty and the joy and the magnificence of this participation that I tried to explain to people, but they couldn't see 7 years ago. And considering all of the things that we've been through, and now people seem to be able to hear me. Like it's
Interesting.
been very interesting. It's like they don't seem as scared of me anymore, which is nice, frankly. Um, and I don't sound completely insane. And I promise they did think I was completely insane 7 years ago because they couldn't hear me.
Hmm. There's a bit of social contagion going on in the mind there too.
Well, yeah, there
Where
was other stuff going on, and that was a difficulty. But it's the sort of revelation of what was actually happening is healing in the long run.
hmm, hard medicine, huh?
Oh man. But I'm wondering. So go back to the chess game and and in the house and stuff. Yeah, it's the once you become aware of it, it doesn't have the same hold on you anymore, right?
Right. This is why people seek understanding in things that scare them.
Nice. So I guess we have to go through it, eh?
Yes.
Into season 5. Well, chat, what do you think? Uh, Hive Mind Flayer needs a host player. That's interesting. They can't beat it without the radios. Friends attacking from different locations. Music beats the attack like dementia patients. Psalms. See,
Interesting.
talking to Mel is
That's true about the
it's
dementia patients. I hadn't thought of that. Nice
how
one.
which dementia
Music
page.
can reach people who have dementia quicker than anything else.
Mm.
They can their memories can be revived through it if it was a song that was important to them or that they knew well or that they had an emotion attached to it.
I mean, like Africa.
Like you did, like you had a bad emotion attached to it, right? And you were like, "Oh," and it made you cringe immediately, right? That's how powerful it is. So that was well done on their part, the Duffer Brothers, for putting that that story element in there. That it was a way to protect your mind.
Oh, right. With no, that I'd forgotten about that with
Yes, Max.
Max, that she needs the music.
Hmm.
Yes. Well, that's a wonderful thought to end on as like at the next layer of things. I'm not sure how we're going to so everyone, I'm not sure what we're going to do between now and when the Stranger Things comes out because I have a lot of things happening in the next few weeks on Fridays, and we may stream next Saturday. I'm not sure about it because I've got this conference about the things that you can't. This is a very interesting thing that's happening on campus here with a group of some of the colleagues that I have who have been canceled over the last several years, quite dramatically, and we are bringing in some people who have been canceled over the last several years. So I may, in fact, be wanting to
Interesting.
report back on Saturday night after we've had this conference on Friday next week, but I don't know
Great.
yet. If you guys want to hear about that, that's interesting. And then I'll be away for a bit, and then we'll be back, and it'll all be almost Thanksgiving, and we'll be ready to watch season 5. So, um, To be continued. But this like I'm now, thanks to tonight's conversation, very, very curious about where they're going to be able to take us. If in fact the horror has changed sufficiently in the last few years that they're still going to be able to find more layers of it, or whether what's going to be there. Killing off some of the characters that we love is just sorrow, right? It's not horror in quite the same way. Death, I found when my father died, that wasn't horror, that was grief. Horror is a different sort of thing when it's like the lies. Suddenly you see the lies. And I don't quite know where to go with that.
Hmm.
Malcolm with this is great. Winter, spring, summer, autumn, fall. 5 seasons. That's a kind of like the Halloween sort of level of insight into how many seasons actually are there. Well, we hope you have enjoyed our chess game with the Duffers tonight. Playing with the what do we see in the pieces? What do we see in the monsters that they're moving around on their board? That they flip over every so often and recombine. And indeed, remember that all of these monsters were originally game pieces. What do we think about that? We done? This is it? Any more thoughts?
I just hope that the very last episode of Stranger Things season 5 does not reveal it to have all been a big game of D&D.
Very good point. Oh my gosh, what if they pull an Alice in Wonderland on us and it's all been a dream? Then we'll be mad.
Yeah. And yes, pitchforks and torches will be in action. Yes.
That's a very good point to make. We don't want to find out that it's all been simply a game. We want it to have been real.
Hmm.
It rains in Africa. Good night.